Yeah, welcome to the Brown Boy Wonder Podcast. Reviews and reactions. Let's go. It's the Brown Boy Wonder. Hold it down, representing for the culture. Every episode brings you closer into the mind and the heart of a hustler, where the truth and the groove collide. Stay tuned in, come enjoy the ride. Keep it authentic like that, never hold back. It's the Brown Boy Wonder Podcast. The Brown Boy Wonder Podcast. Subscribe, share, and stay tuned in. The vibe's always on.
Welcome to the Brown Boy Wonder Podcast. Today, guys, we have a special guest who is making waves in the world of independent wrestling. You can see him in action at the London Gathering Place on February 8th, defending his Hammerlock Pure Wrestling Championship. And you can see him at the Project X Wrestling's first show of 2025, where he teams up with El Chato against Marty Scurll and his mystery partner. He is currently the Tyson Dukes Cup winner, Great Lakes champion, and Hammerlock Pure Wrestling champion, the Bollywood prodigy, Vikram Prashar. How you doing?
Oh, man. Well, I'm doing great after that intro. It's an intro that the Punjabi prodigy deserves more than anything. I'm glad I'm in the presence of someone who knows what they're talking about. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. I'm just glad you're here on the Brown Boy Wonder Podcast because I believe you are my first independent person that I'm interviewing. So I'm glad you're here, man.
Man, I'm happy to be here, man. I'm happy to be on the show.
Fantastic. Well, you'll be starring in a future short film called Steel Town. How did that come about?
Yeah, so it's actually funny how a lot of these things work. So as you guys can easily tell, I hit the gym a pretty decent amount. I mean, you can't see it in this suit here, but I got a pretty good physique on me. So I remember about over a year ago, I ran into a gentleman at the gym, and you know how things go when two really jacked in shape dudes start talking. We just have a lot in common and things hit off. But what surprised me was about a year later, he reached out to me, and I didn't even know that he was into film. He's actually recently graduated from Toronto's Academy of Acting. I'm talking about Mark Herbrand, for those of you who don't know. If you don't know him, make sure to go check him out because he's great. And he reached out to me because he wanted me to star in his short film. He said, listen, Vikram, there's just a lack of star power when it comes to the independent wrestling scene, and you're the only person who has a presence to them. And I was like, Mark, I know. So he was pretty much like, you're a pro wrestler. I have a spot in this short film, and you would actually be playing another pro wrestler. And without me spilling too many details about the film, I'm not just a wrestler. There is some backstory towards my character. And basically, I am the antagonist. And there's a lot of friction between me and the protagonist in terms of, there's a lot of stuff in there, man. There's betrayal. There's murder. Again, it's a short film, so it's nothing too crazy or too long, but I think the storytelling in this film is very well. But yeah, that's how it happened. You never know who you're going to run into. I ran into somebody at the gym, and a year later he hit me up and he's like, I think you would do great in this.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see that. Do you know when it's going to come out or any idea?
I have no idea when the release date's going to be, but I do. As you mentioned earlier, I have a match in London, Ontario, this coming Saturday against my former mentor, TNA superstar Bhupinder Gujjar. So for those of you who want to kind of have a dip into independent wrestling, you haven't checked it out, or for those of you who haven't checked me out but do enjoy independent wrestling, I highly suggest checking that match out either in person or whenever it ends up getting posted online. But at this match coming up, there's going to be some filming for this short film. And it's definitely been an experience that I haven't had before. It's a little bit different than pro wrestling in terms of like pro wrestling promos, because realistically in pro wrestling, you're really just being yourself. Some people turn that dial up to 100, but the Punjabi prodigy's at 100 every single day. The truth is that I'm just not one that's used to memorizing lines. That's something I've never done before. So memorizing lines for these scenes and actually rehearsing them over and over. It's very different than the pro wrestling way of things,
Sure.
but it's definitely been a pretty cool life experience so far. And, you know, I've always thought I love wrestling more than anything, but like, knock on wood here, if I ever got hurt and I couldn't wrestle again, I always thought I'd want to do something within the realm of sport or entertainment. And getting some acting experience would definitely help the entertainment side of things. So, yeah, it should be pretty exciting. And I know Steel Town is going to be released in certain film festivals on big screens and stuff. So I'm really excited, and I'm sure it'll be coming out on an entertainment platform, or at the very least on social media platforms. So make sure to keep your eyes out for that.
For sure, man. For sure. Well, let's get down to the beginning here. What made you want to become a professional wrestler?
Oh man, that's a good question. While I'm answering, I'm just going to put these heavy championship belts down for a second. As you guys can see, it's been fairly successful so far, my career in pro wrestling. But to answer your question, honestly, what got me wanting to become a pro wrestler is my childhood. I grew up as a pro wrestling fan. But it's funny. I remember my first memory of professional wrestling, and it was actually just one year. I didn't know what the hell I wanted for my birthday. And my dad was also a big wrestling fan, and my cousins were at the time. And one of my cousins had wrestling action figures, and we'd play with them at family gatherings. So it's funny. I remember I didn't know what I wanted for my birthday. So I said to my dad, John Cena was the only wrestler I'd ever heard of at that time. So I was like, I was probably 6 years old, something like that. I was like, I want a John Cena action figure. So then on my birthday, my dad comes home with this giant play set. They don't even make them like this anymore, but it came with like a John Cena and an Edge action figure. But not just the action figures. It came with a replica, like not a replica, but a toy belt, like a toy spinner belt, and a little DVD with some matches from their feud. And it's that DVD is what changed my life forever, because if I had never turned that on, who knows where I'd be right now, because I just got hooked. And then when I discovered YouTube, it was over from there. And then, you know, yeah, that's pretty much what made me want to become a wrestler. It's being a fan growing up. And, you know, this is the Brown Boys Wonder podcast, so I'm sure you've highlighted some of the, I want to say, difficulties or challenges maybe when it comes to growing up in a Brown household. So many advantages as well. I just want to highlight, like, so many advantages. Like, we come from some of the most loving and caring parents in the world, but at the same time, with that love and that care, it can come with some overstepping here and there. That's probably an understatement. An absolute understatement. But I remember it was something my parents were very concerned about at the time, because, you know, the generic, especially growing up in an Indian household, the generic stuff that you hear. Oh, you need to go to school. You got to go to college, university, get your degree, become a doctor or a lawyer to make money, to be successful. And I remember when I first said I want to be a pro wrestler, I got no support. Screaming matches every single day, back and forth. But now my family supports me more than anybody. I grew up overweight on the chubbier side, and I think when they saw me drop the weight once I had started wrestling training, they're like, oh, he's taking this seriously. And once my parents become my biggest supporters in any avenue, just like I will put in every ounce of blood, sweat, and tears to get to where I want to be, I got to give them credit, because they will also do the same once I show them that, once I give them a reason to believe in me. So that's pretty much how that happened. And I'd say, like, my parents not being all for me becoming a pro wrestler at first also put a chip on my shoulder and made me work a lot harder towards these goals, and kind of even put a chip on my shoulder in terms of, like, no, I got to prove for all the Indian and brown kids growing up in the future, I have to be that example of, you can accomplish your dreams and find that financial stability. It doesn't always have to be going to school or just working towards a job that you know you're not going to enjoy doing, because sorry to go on a rant here, but
No, you're good.
like this is life, and you're gonna spend majority of your life doing what you want to do, hopefully.
No.
A lot of people don't get that privilege, and it's because they don't work towards the careers and the aspirations and the goals that they actually want out of life. So I think that's very important, and I think that's why a lot of people, or I think that's why the Punjabi prodigy would say a lot of people are living their lives like losers, because they're living their lives making someone else happier, someone else richer, making someone else's dream come true. Make your own dream come true, guys.
Absolutely. Once you put that 100% into your craft, I think everyone will gather around and support you no matter what. And I've seen the videos of your family in the audience just cheering you on. So it's good to see that, man. It's always good to see that.
No, man. And it, like I said, dude, night and day difference. Because now it is at that point where my family will also do anything that they have to make me see that type of success in wrestling, because I've proven it to them that it's possible. And now it's pretty cool even just to see them. Like, sometimes I look back at the clips of them being in the crowd at these shows, and it still blows my mind. Like, really? Like, you guys are into it this much? I love it. I love it.
Good. That's good. The Maharaja, Raj Desi, aka Jinder Mahal and WWE, he endorsed you.
He did.
How's meeting him for the first time, or if you met him before?
So this is the first time I had met Raj Desi, fresh off his release from the WWE. So he's coming into the independent scene hot within the last year and going forward, and rightfully so. That guy is very talented. Honestly, I knew I was going to be wrestling on the Greektown Wrestling pre-show that day, and I knew he was going to be on the card. And I was at first just trying to like keep my fingers crossed, like hopefully I can exchange some words with him. Because sometimes when there's bigger draws on the show, you get to speak with them, and sometimes they roll in, and nothing against anybody here, but sometimes they roll in like right before the show, they work their match, they leave right away. They kind of keep towards themselves. And you know what? No judgment coming from me, because as my career progresses and as my name grows and grows, I might start understanding why a lot of guys are like that. But Raj is not like that. He came to the show. He took the time to shake everybody's hand. But not just like the generic, oh, I don't want heat with anyone, I'm going to shake everybody's hand. Like actually taking the time to introduce himself, talk to people. He read Punjabi Prodigy on my t-shirt, and he's like, oh, Punjabi Prodigy, that's pretty cool. And on that night, I wrestled Raj Singh. He currently works for TNA, I believe, and he's a pretty well-known name on the independent scene, and he's very close with Raj Desi, and he watched some bits of our match, and he enjoyed it. And I was talking to him about like how I do vlogs and things like that, and he's just very, very giving. Because at first I was just going to grab a picture with him. Then I was like, oh, would you maybe want to be in the vlog? And we didn't even talk anything about like what we were going to film at all. Okay. We're just like, yeah, like we'll get a picture. You know what? Why don't we have like a clip? And I thought maybe at first it was going to be like, maybe like a cool intro to the vlog, or like a cool outro, everybody subscribe sort of thing. And then when I was about to like ask him, or at least give some sort of a rundown of, oh, like maybe we could say this, cuts me off immediately. He's like, no, just film it. I'm like, okay. And I like that. That's old school. I was trained very old school. My coach Tyson Dukes was very old school. So they hit play, start filming. And then when it's his turn to speak, because I just talked about how great his match was, and I was like, I'm going to just tell him I want a match in the future, because that's the truth. That is the truth. And then when he endorsed me to the level that he did, that was all him. That was all Raj Desi on his own, on the fly, doing that. So I'm very appreciative of that, because clearly he watched bits of my match. He liked what he saw. He liked how I presented. He treated me with equal respect that I treated him with. And he clearly believes in me, and I believe that this match is going to happen. I want this match to happen more than anything. As of right now, there's not a set date in stone,
Sure.
but my comment on that is, it's in the works.
Okay.
This match is gonna happen. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
But we're in talks with a couple of promotions to see what we can do.
Oh man, we all cannot wait for that match. The Bollywood Prodigy versus the Maharaja. Wow. That should be a WrestleMania match. For me at least.
Oh, hey man, Hunter, you reach out to me anytime you would like. Anytime you would like Triple H. I've been a big fan of yours for a long time. I love the product, and I'd love to be there. So, if you guys want that match at WrestleMania, you don't got to ask me twice.
Please comment down below if you want that match. But yeah, share me your experience of your first match ever that you ever had.
Yeah, 100%. My first match ever took place at NWX/CWF. Pretty much it's a joint promotion. It's two promotions, Canadian Wrestling Federation and Northern Wrestling Experience. It was on the NWX stable for my first match, and I wrestled a guy named Mark Shaw. The way this actually really ended up working was I rode up to the show with a couple of wrestlers that I had trained with for a while. And they had been regularly wrestling for CWF and NWX. And they were also somewhat on the newer side, but they did have like a couple years more experience than me. I hadn't had my first match yet, right? But they helped me a lot with my training. And I remember this promoter. I rode up with them just to watch them wrestle. And I knew I was getting close to having my first match. And the promoter was talking about how he needed bodies, and like, if you guys are interested, like, let me know, yada yada. And then I messaged Tyson Dukes, because I'm one of, if not Tyson Dukes' last student to actually graduate and become a pro wrestler, because he's retired now. Right. And I messaged Tyson, and I pretty much asked him, I'm like, hey, listen, Chris Thorne at CWF, he needs bodies. If you feel that I'm not ready, 100%, but if you feel that I am, there's an opportunity to have my first match. And Tyson said, you're good to go. And then 2 weeks later, because they run shows every 2 weeks, I showed up. And I had my match, and I didn't win, unfortunately. It's not very often that people do win their first matches.
Yeah.
If there would be anyone to win their first match, it would be me. So if I didn't win my first match, it's clearly not a common thing.
Right.
And the match was such a great experience. I got a lot of support online as well on social media, because there's a lot of people that knew how long I was training. And my advice to any upcoming pro wrestler out there who hasn't had their first match yet is, and this is going to sound kind of silly, I watched my first match back a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Once I had my second match, I never watched my first match again.
Oh.
And I still haven't watched my first match again. And that's because, just like in any sport, when you have had, I've had over 100 matches now. Mm-hmm. When you've had over 100 matches or 100 games or whatever you call it in your sport, if you watch your first game or your first match back, your performance is not going to be at a level that you would like it to be.
Yeah.
But I think every single pro wrestler's first match should be a good memory, a positive memory. So, and this was a piece of advice that was actually passed on to me, and now I'm going to pass on to many anybody out there who can actually become a pro wrestler. Anyone out there who actually has what it takes to do this, do what you can to keep that first match as a good memory. For me, it was only watching it when I was new. I'm no longer new. I haven't watched it since.
Gotcha. you mentioned Tyson Dukes, who was your trainer, who was also part of the Cruiserweight Classic back when WWE did that. How has he helped you in your career, or any advice he gave you along the way?
Oh man. And it's funny answering this because towards the end, I did lose some respect for him because he did kind of become a little bit of a coward. I mean, he wouldn't wrestle me before he retired. I mean, what does that make him? But what I will say is Tyson is, if he still was training, he would be the best coach in all of Canada. When Tyson was training, he was the best coach in all of Canada. There is a reason behind me being as amazing in that pro wrestling ring as I am. And the reason, I got to give Tyson his credit. He did train the Punjabi Prodigy. That is something that he can hold a candle to his name for. But I lost a lot of that respect towards the end. I really wanted to have that match with him. And it didn't end up happening. But in terms of training, he's very old school, like I mentioned earlier, which I think every wrestler should. I would recommend any wrestler to go through some sort of old school training system.
Yeah.
At some point. And old school in sense of it's not like crazy old school, but for example, learning to run the ropes. That is something that Tyson, as a coach, thought was a privilege. So before any of that, learned how to chain wrestle, learned how to grapple, learned how to take bumps, learned how to strike, learned how to take strikes. Running the ropes is one of the last things that I actually learned. Buying your first pair of wrestling boots. Traditionally, I waited until Tyson Dukes gave me the green light to buy a pair of wrestling boots, because that is also something that might be a little lost nowadays, but a lot of the old school trainers felt was a huge respect thing in wrestling is you buy your first pair of boots once your coach gives you that green light. So he taught me a lot in that aspect of technical wrestling, chain wrestling, and an old school mindset towards the business, which I think is missing nowadays. I really learned that less is more, because as somebody who is young, like I'm 22 years old. You wouldn't guess it with the amount of muscle mass in my body and how good looking I am, but I am 22 years old.
Yes.
And it's very common for people around my age to have fallen into this trap of, I don't even want to say a trap, because there's nothing wrong with loving to watch what you love to watch, but falling into this trap of only enjoying this super fast-paced, high-flying, flip-floppy, modern-day version of pro wrestling, which I think there's a time and a place for everything. And those guys are, like, the guys that do that type of wrestling, they're athletic as shit, dude. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I can do everything that they can do. Like, hell no. But I also know they can't do everything that I can do.
Right.
They can't all wrestle a realistic style. And I'm not saying every single match of mine is like a 5-star classic, but not everyone can wrestle that technical chain style. Not everyone can generate a crowd reaction off of a lower amount of moves. Like, to me, I'm just saying, sometimes I'm on shows and I slap a headlock onto a guy and I say some shit that the crowd doesn't like, even though it's probably true what I'm saying. But guess what? Even though they don't like it, they come up here for it with the volume. They're making noise. And there's a lot of these guys that do a lot of stuff, a lot of risky stuff. It's a risk stepping in that ring in the first place. And then you're going to amp the level of risk up to here, and you're going to get a reaction sometimes that's like down here. So like I said, there's just a time and a place for that stuff. And I think Tyson Dukes definitely made me a lot smarter of a pro wrestler.
Gotcha. Yeah. Usually, you see a lot of flashy stuff going on they're doing it for the moment, but it's all about longevity. Can you keep doing that forever? You can't. But old school style, I see that is always the move, or at least most wrestlers should know that now. I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah. But you shared pictures with you at the dungeon with T.J. Wilson and Natalia on Instagram. How was training with them?
Oh man. So that was actually such an amazing experience.
Mm.
This was in spring 2023. So what had happened is I'd gone to a wrestling seminar with some people I had trained with. And here's the deal. When it comes to books and looks, like Rodney Matthews, Michael Grayson, even Miley, like
Mm.
Rodney Matthews' girlfriend Miley, not a fan. They're just they pander to all these stupid children in the crowd and their bright colored merchandise and t-shirts, and they're just like, oh, so happy, so joyful, so positive. Shut up. I'm the man. All right. Now I did train with Books and Looks and Miley, and as much as I know I'm better than every single one of them and they could never compare to me, I will say Miley did something amazing. So because we're all Tyson Duke students, we all performed fairly well during a seminar that Tyson Kidd, TJ Wilson, was running in Toronto, and I want to say like the summer of 2022.
Yeah.
He was happy with all of our performance, and he'd sent us all like messages, and I had already had a connection with TJ as well back from when I used to podcast. Like I had mentioned to you off the air earlier, I hosted a podcast called Wrestling with Awareness about pro wrestling and mental health. And I had Tyson Kidd on it at the time. At the time, it was actually called the Dropkick Podcast because I had been co-hosting with my buddy Daniel. But fast forward to that seminar, we all do very well. He's impressed with the Tyson students, and he actually, through messaging Miley, invited all of us to go train there for a week.
Yeah.
And Tyson Kidd, TJ Wilson, is one of those amazing dudes who just loves pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Like even the way he said it, he's like, I don't want a cent from you guys. I don't want a penny. Is like, you guys don't have to pay anything. He's like, all I ask is hard work. He's like, if you guys can get to Florida, we'll set something up. And we got to Florida and we trained at the dungeon for a week with Natalia and Tyson Kidd. Natalia is also a crazy good coach. And it was just a great experience because like trained with a decent amount of people, like a decent amount of bigger names in the wrestling industry too, and that's just proof that Natalia and Tyson Kidd's coaching is the best of the best. I mean, when you have people on WWE television at the moment training there, like when you have people like Angelo Dawkins there, when you have people like B-Fab there, when you have people like Aaliyah at the time, who is still with the WWE, when you have Moose, former TNA world champion, your coaching is probably amazing. And I am not even like you guys have seen me. I'm not always the most humble person. I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Man, those training sessions were humbling. But it's like everything in terms of like your in-ring conditioning, your selling, the flow of the moves, your chain wrestling, like getting people into quick pins and roll-ups.
Yeah.
Bumping, every aspect of pro wrestling that could be improved over those couple days that week. Hell, man, I would even say like it felt like I had skipped up to like 6 months it felt like I jumped 6 months worth of experience, or I jumped
Oh.
up by 6 months to a year's worth of experience within a week of training there. That's how high level their training is, and it was just such an amazing experience. And everybody there was so kind, so outgoing. They have such a positive environment there, and it's just something special. Everyone there wants to see each other improve, and they all improve. Like amazing athletes. They have some independent wrestlers who train there as well that I think are amazing, and I think everyone should check out. Like, I'd highly suggest everyone off the top of my head checking out Chico Adams. I'd highly suggest everyone checking out. I believe it's either the new foundation or the new dynasty, but it's these two wrestlers, Cam Fox and Khalil. Those guys are working their ass off at the dungeon every single training session, week to week, and working with them was also incredible. So I'd highly suggest you guys all checking them out.
Absolutely, man. Like Natalia and Tyson Kidd, I don't know, a lot of people like are seeing them as like the top stars, but they are the most underrated wrestlers that I've seen, or I notice. Because no one really talks about them in the high level.
I think it's one of those things where, especially with Tyson Kidd, to be honest, like I think Natalia deserves a lot more credit than she gets, but at least since she's like still actively on the women's roster and she has won the women's title like a couple of times, she does get her flowers here and there. I feel like Tyson Kidd, TJ Wilson, is so under the radar in terms of people knowing how much he contributes to this business. It's crazy because he's also a producer with the WWE.
Yeah.
He's like, if you guys have some of your favorite matches within the last decade or so, he's probably produced majority of them. Like it is very impressive to hear the matches that he's produced. Like I believe he produced Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair in the main event of WrestleMania 37.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. I believe he produced, these are just off the top of my head, he's produced bigger and better matches even. But I remember, not to say that wasn't a big and awesome match. That's one of my favorite WrestleMania main events ever, to be honest. Historic, 100%. Brock Lesnar and Finn Balor, I believe he was the one to produce that one as well. So, and those are just two huge, amazing matches that off the top of my head I'm thinking of. So, and he will get his flowers. I almost feel like it's going to be similar to a William Regal type of situation where, to be honest, like you look back at William Regal's matches and they're just so amazing. And as a pro wrestler, you can really study and learn your craft by watching William Regal. But he's one of those guys where I think he got more praise and more of his flowers once the in-ring career was wrapped up, and people just noticed how much influence he actually has on this younger generation coming up. I think it's going to be the same thing for Tyson Kidd. I think as someone who's young and coming up, that guy has so much influence in such a positive way. He will get his flowers, and I can't wait because it's very well deserved.
Absolutely, man. Tell me about, how do you develop this persona of yours? Was it always, did you always have it when you were a kid, or it just happens?
Honestly, because as you can tell, I'm a very like up and down type of person. Like, I think a lot of people misread me and they mistake my confidence for arrogance. Because throughout the week I'm just a confident person. And when the weekend hits and it's time for me to step in that ring, I become the most confident version of myself possible. And a lot of people will get offended, and a lot of people will be like they think you're maybe insulting them personally. And sometimes maybe I am insulting people personally, directly at them. But that's out of a place of confidence, not out of a place of arrogance. In this business, if you want to be the best, you got to believe you're the best. And the Punjabi prodigy Vikram Prashar believes he is the best. So a lot of people wonder where this energy comes from, where this much personality comes from. How can someone have this much energy? And it's a simple drive to be the best. I've been told from a young age, I will be honest, that I can be a little bit full of myself at times, but I don't believe there's anything wrong with you being your own favorite drug, if that makes sense. I can indulge Vikram Prashar matches and Vikram Prashar promos all damn day long, and I can enjoy it. And in my opinion, if you're a pro wrestler and you can't do that, maybe there's something wrong with you, because it's something that you should enjoy. So it's a mindset. Honestly, it comes from a mindset. It comes from a different perspective on things. My perspective on things is you got to be a little selfish to get to where you want to be. And if people think I'm selfish, or they think I'm arrogant, or they think I'm cocky, they can think whatever they want, because all I know is I have these, and the people who want to talk shit don't have these.
100%. Every time you do a promo, I feel it. Especially the crowd feels it too. So you're doing something right.
Thank you.
Well, what are the biggest struggles of being an indie wrestler? Is it the travel? Is it like a balance between your personal life? You're big on mental health as well. How has that been a factor as well?
Indie wrestling, as much as I love wrestling, I love professional wrestling, and I love the independents as well. It can be challenging. First challenge that comes to mind, honestly, is for guys like myself who want to make it far in this business. And I believe, like, in my opinion, you shouldn't be in it if you don't even want to make it far. Sometimes it's those moments of uncertainty. Like, we want to talk about mental health here. Believe it or not, you guys all think I try to present myself to be some sort of superhuman. I'm not. The Punjabi prodigy is human. And I have my moments of, they're not very often, but I have my moments of doubt. I have my moments of, is this all worth it? Is this all going to work out? But like I said, when it comes to my confidence that some would refer to as arrogance, you have to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
You have to have that confidence that things are going to work out. So in those little moments of weakness, sometimes that can be a little bit tough. Obviously, for many people, the independence can be a huge financial struggle, sometimes a huge financial burden. Because for most people, they're driving from town to town, city to city, not getting paid much for their matches, paying for their own gas money, paying for their own hotels. It's a little different when you're the Punjabi prodigy, to be honest.
Right.
Those finances don't really hurt you as much.
But for sure.
But I know those finances do hurt a lot of people on the independent scene. And then also, obviously, your body. This pro wrestling is so taxing on your body. Any real professional wrestler, their pet peeve is when people use the word fake.
Yeah.
Listen, you can call it entertainment, you can call it predetermined, you can call it scripted. Every single move that we do in that ring hurts. You mentioned me having a podcast earlier. I had UFC Hall of Famer Ken Shamrock on that podcast, and he said he got more hurt in pro wrestling than he did in MMA. Oh. It's like it's brutal on the body, and you have to love this to do this. Other challenges on the indies, sometimes depending on the promotion you go to is like the traveling, whether or not it's like a super long car ride or even like the amount of luggage that you have to take. Like if you have a triple header weekend where you're wrestling Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you're driving far, and let's say it's two companies where you have gold for them. So you got to bring this championship belt. You got to bring that championship belt. You got to bring that trophy. You also want to make some money. So you're going to bring a bag full of merchandise with your t-shirts and things like that. You're also going to bring a gear bag with your wrestling gear in it. Some people who fill up their gear bag too much, or vice versa, fill up their everyday essentials bag too much, they might need to have a separate bag for their wrestling gear and their everyday wear, right? So that's definitely one of them. Also, like just very late night drives sometimes.
Yeah.
That'll be very grueling as well. Yeah, you gotta love it to do it. To be honest, I don't think there's any way around it.
Yeah, man. Well, speaking of, let's talk about your matches here. What is your favorite match so far? I want to say that or at least mine, what I've seen is your first steel cage match with Brian White.
100%. That first steel cage match with Brian White was something special. Not just because I walked out with this beautiful Great Lakes championship, but it was also special because it was one of those moments where we laid it all down on the line. I did retire Brian White in that match. He's trying to claim he's coming back, but he had a torn meniscus at the time. I destroyed his leg even more. And we were supposed to actually wrestle this Saturday, but he had to pull out because he's got to get another surgery because I ended his career. Let's just be honest here. The guy's old. It's over. But that was one of my favorite matches because he put his all into that match just like I put my all into that match. And by the end of it, we were bleeding all over each other. I had taken his knee for a ride, and I walked out with this title. And Penn Valley Wrestling has a working relationship with Hammerlock, so it felt like something special because got to walk out and celebrate with both championships, and it's not in the shop, and with the trophy. So that's definitely one of my favorite matches. There's a few matches out. Anytime I've wrestled Rodney Matthews, I think it's been a great experience, but I would still say my favorite match was between me and Rodney Matthews, and I was actually challenging him for this Hammerlock Pure Wrestling Championship, and I actually came up short. It was one of my first championship matches. I think it was actually my only title match before. It only took me one more shot to win it, but I had challenged him for this championship, and it was my first main event as well, and I came up short, but it was one of those matches where I was just so proud of my performance. And it was one of those matches where I was like, I was this close. And I just knew for a fact that the next time I'd step in the ring for this championship, I would be walking out with it. I've had 3 matches with Chili Brown that I've enjoyed all 3 of them. As much as he's a pain to deal with, I think we create magic in that ring, and I think a lot of people enjoy watching me and him beat the crap out of each other. Obviously, it was a very quick 5-minute tag team match, but me teaming with Mark Wheeler to take on LFI on Ring of Honor, that was awesome because that was AEW Forbidden Door Weekend 2023. Right. And fun fact, ROH is taped before Collision. And what was funny about that was I was actually technically, even though my match aired on the Thursday after, technically I was the first match of Forbidden Door Weekend. Because it was the opening match on ROH that weekend, and it was in the Scotiabank Arena, which means a lot to me too, because growing up I attended a lot of WWE events at the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto. My favorite match of all time, John Cena versus Edge, Unforgiven 2006. That took place in the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto.
Great match.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So it felt very surreal to be able to say that I've wrestled in that venue. So that was another one of my favorites. Me and Ethan Dukes for the Tyson Dukes Cup.
Oh, yes.
That one is definitely one of my favorites. That's still the top. That I believe that would still be the top grossing Hammerlock Pure Wrestling show. That probably close to 500 fans in there. So that one felt surreal as well because I won a whole Rumble at the start of the show to qualify to fight for the cup in the main event, and I walked out with it. So those are a couple of my favorites off the top of my head. Me and Tyler Turva have had some really good ones in St. Thomas, and wrestling Cody Deaner as well was another fantastic one. I could go on forever. I love myself, man. I could talk about how good my matches are forever, but those are some of my favorites.
Who do you say was your toughest opponent?
Oh, that's a good question. Toughest opponent.
Yeah, like someone who just rocks your world, I guess.
I would say, off the top of my head, Tyler Turva's up there, to be honest. He's a tough one. Like I have beaten him before, but like we are literally 1-1 with time limit draw and disqualification. So I would say he's definitely the one that's felt the most neck and neck. Rodney Matthews and Chili Brown also feel pretty neck and neck for me. Cody Deaner's up there, but I'd probably go with Tyler Turva as my toughest opponent so far.
See,
I mean, Preston Vance in AEW too, man. That guy rocked me. Rocked me when I wrestled LFI. He's also very tough.
Damn. Well, we're getting down to the end of the episode here, but how important is social media and self-promotion for a indie wrestler like you? How important
Honestly, I think a lot of independent wrestlers are losers and they don't really have much of a social life. And the reason why I say this is because I was so shocked when I became a pro wrestler and I saw the lack of use of social media from some of these guys. Clearly, they're not sliding in many baddies' DMs. Clearly, they don't have many friends to message. Clearly, they don't have many parties to get to after their shows because they're not on social media much. And if they are, they hardly ever post. I think it is extremely important. I think social media is actually one of the most underrated tools as a pro wrestler. And the reason why I say this is because, first of all, you can make some crazy connections and your stuff is visible to anyone at any time. It takes one right person seeing the right match or promo for you to get an opportunity. Why would you not be pushing your stuff all over social media? I upload to YouTube, I post on Instagram, post on Facebook. I could get a little more active on X. Actually a lot more active I should be. But either way, I utilize my social media. And also I think social media is a fantastic tool to tell stories. The way I see things is, where do you think people want to be when they become pro wrestlers? Probably WWE, AEW, TNA possibly. They've been having a fantastic year. What do all these companies have in common? Yes, they have wrestling. Not all the same wrestling style, though. What's actually the most common is the storytelling.
Yeah.
Storylines and storytelling. To me, on the actual independent wrestling shows, unfortunately, I don't think majority of indie wrestling promotions utilize social media and utilize storytelling to its full advantage. I think and I believe you would probably agree, if you're going to a wrestling show, would you rather just see a match for a belt that's probably a good match, or would you rather see a good match that has a good story, a reason why the two guys are fighting? Probably
I need a story.
a story, reason why the two guys are fighting. That's why so many people tune in on television and they still don't go to their local wrestling promotions shows. I think social media is that perfect tool to show what you're capable of doing and show what stories you're capable of doing. Stories are capable of telling.
Mhm.
And that's what I use social media for. Like, obviously, show my promo ability, showcase who I am, post some match clips and highlights and vlogs. I do all that stuff. But within those promos, telling a story is something that's really important. The way I see it is, if I want to end up in the WWE, I want to show them that I can do what they look for. So even if I'm cutting a live promo on the microphone, I'll do my best to make sure that gets recorded on that show so that I can post it on social media. If I attack somebody after a match, I want to post that on social media, because chances are me and that person are probably going to be throwing hands later on, and I want people to know why we're throwing hands, because people are going to want to watch us throw hands if they know why we have issues. If you, the best example is this Saturday, I'm defending my Hammerlock Pure Wrestling Championship against Bhupinder Gujjar from TNA. Could I have just made some generic, "Oh, I'm wrestling Bhupinder. It's going to be this Saturday in London, Ontario. The doors open at this time. Show starts at this time. Should be a great match." Cool. No, I have issues with Bhupinder, and the reasons why I have issues with Bhupinder is because I fought by his side. I helped him win a championship. I helped him keep that championship. And then when it was, at the time, my biggest match of my career at the time against Cody Deaner, he costed me the match. And we've been at each other's throats since. And then Brian White, just because he's injured, he gets to choose my opponent and he chooses Bhupinder. All this stuff lights a fire under me. It pisses me off. It makes me want to kick his ass.
Yeah.
And I want you guys to know why I want to kick his ass. Absolutely. And I'm sure you guys want to know why I want to kick his ass too. That way you guys can attend the show and watch me kick his ass. Or if you guys don't like me, hell, you're still going to want to attend the show, because you're going to see me online and be like, I disagree with him. I think what he's saying is wrong. I think Bhupinder's in the right. I want to see Bhupinder kick Vic's ass. That's what this is all about.
Yeah, so we need the juice.
Exactly. So that's my aspect on it. Me as a pro, even as a pro wrestler myself, I'm not very invested into watching a pro wrestling match unless I know why these two guys have issues. So why should I expect you guys to all want to watch me wrestle if I'm just keeping the issues I have with these other wrestlers like under the wraps, not posting about it, being a good guy and just going to wrestle for the sportsmanship aspect of it? No, I'm there to prove a point or keep some gold. And on Saturday, I'm going to do both.
Absolutely, man. Yes. So you were, I think we mentioned this before, but you were part of GCW, Smash Wrestling, Pro Wrestling King, Ring of Honor, right now Hammerlock. If you have to pick, which promotion would you rather pick? WWE, AEW, TNA, or do you rather stay have the freedom in the Indies?
That is a great question. I do love the independence and I love the freedom that comes with it, but I think the time where people outgrow the level that they're at always eventually comes. I also don't believe deep down we actually, as people, know ourselves when that time comes. Because some days I feel like I've outgrown it, then some days I'm like, no, you know what? I still have more to learn. Me having more to learn. You guys clearly have a lot to learn if sometimes I think I have more to learn. But I've enjoyed the indies. I'll be honest, if I'm offered a contract tomorrow, I'm probably taking it. And the reason why is, even though I enjoy the indies, like I said, my passion comes towards storytelling. And I think being signed in wrestling on television presents that opportunity to tell stories to a wider audience, a much larger audience, and a more consistent audience that is going to keep up with the stories on a week to week basis. In terms of where I would like to sign, you know, the beautiful part about pro wrestling is, like, the business is thriving right now.
Yeah.
Right. Like the WWE is at like possibly an all-time high at the moment. Like they are so popular, so mainstream right now. Storytelling has been magnificent. Shows have been so entertaining. Great matches through the roof. AEW is also a great spot. You know, they're on national television. They get a large audience. They run shows in arenas. They have a history now with their world championships and a history of storylines. I would have fun there too. TNA has been doing amazing stuff in the last year. They've been packing houses and drawing a lot of fans and telling some great stories. And they have the working relationship with the WWE now,
Yes.
which is also awesome to see. New Japan, they've been doing some great stuff. They've always got some awesome hard-hitting action going. Wrestle Kingdom is just a sensation at this point, going multiple nights and still drawing huge crowds for each show and keeping people entertained. It's so hard to decide, but if I'm being honest right now, I think the WWE is where I belong. And if that's them giving me that call tomorrow and signing me to a contract tomorrow, I'd be over the moon and I'd be thrilled. But I think it's about it is about the destination.
Yeah.
And it is about the journey, but I'm willing to have an open mind throughout the journey. If signing somewhere else will lead me to that happiness, maybe signing somewhere else will lead me to that happiness. I'm very open-minded. But right now, in terms of what I enjoy watching the most and where I think my strengths would be utilized the best, because as much as I am very confident in the ring, I think I'm a tremendous pro wrestler. I think I have a technical gift, and I think I've had some incredible matches. I think my strong suit is my personality. I think it's my delivery on the microphone. I think it's the words that I say, and I think it's how I present myself. Again, some people are going to call it arrogance, but the truth is it's confidence. I have star power to me, and I know I have star power to me. And I think the guys who have high amount of star power, the guys who love storytelling, and the guys who are going to prioritize good rivalries and tremendous promos and captivating stories going into having good matches are the ones that belong in WWE. And I think I'm one of those guys.
Absolutely, man. I see it. I
appreciate that.
You, of course, are familiar with Bollywood, of course. What is your favorite Bollywood film?
Oh man, okay. You know what? This one actually, this one catches some people off guard. But I will be honest. I follow a very specific era of Bollywood films. I'm more so the type of guy that's going to rewatch my favorite Bollywood films from my childhood growing up. So I'll be honest. I'm not very updated on the current stuff.
I'm not.
But my favorite all-time Bollywood film, I don't even know if you've seen it, but it is a good one. It might have been in 2004 or 2005, maybe even 06, but it's Thararumpum. It's Thararumpum with Saif Ali Khan. He plays a race. Yeah, I was going to say, if you haven't seen it, you should check it out. And I'd suggest anybody watching this to check it out. He plays a race car driver. And he becomes a race car driver in the movie. He also marries Rani Mukherjee. She plays his wife in the movie, and he marries her. And at the time, he's kind of a bum, but he discovers he's really good at driving, and he becomes a racer, like a professional race car driver. And he becomes rich. He marries her. They have kids, and then without spoiling too much of the movie, something happens, and he loses all his money.
Mhm.
He loses all his money. He loses his like deal with racing and everything, and now he's got to rebuild himself both financially and professionally to get his family back on their feet. That's my favorite Bollywood movie.
Yeah, I think that's on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken.
I
I think
think
it's on the thumbnail.
so. I
Okay.
think so. And if it's not, it definitely has been before.
Yeah.
But it's a great movie.
Yeah, for me, it's Kalhona Ho SRK.
Oh, okay.
When I'll just spoil it. When he dies, I cried. We all cried. That's it.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, man. We've seen your Punjabi payroll getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Is there room for me to be a part of it?
Hey man, I'll be honest, this Punjabi payroll, it's a pretty fat payroll. The Punjabi payroll can be as big as it needs to be. So as long as you're providing something of value, man, you're free to join. You're free to be on the payroll.
Fantastic. Well, sir, Vikram, where can they find you in the socials?
Yeah, 100%. So I'll start with my YouTube channel because that's the only thing that's actually a little bit different. It's just my full name, Vikram space Prashar, Vikram for people listening, Prashar. And then my Instagram handle is the same as my X handle, which is the same as my TikTok. I haven't posted on TikTok in a long time, but feel free to add it because I could see myself one day getting active on there again. It used to be a lot of fun. But my Instagram handle and TikTok and X is Prashar Official, Prashar Official. Make sure to check me out, guys. I'm the most active on Instagram. If you guys want to see my pro wrestling promos, match results, and highlights as soon as you can see them, I'm always posting on Instagram first, and then YouTube for a close second, where I'll post vlogs, and that's where you can find things like full matches and full highlight videos and things like that.
Fantastic, man. Well, I hope I can see you soon. I hope your career gets better and better, bigger and better. And thank you for being here, man.
No worries. Thank you for having me.